This is KM Weiland, and you're listening to the 132nd episode of the Wordplay Podcast. I'm happy to be at the end of a satisfying week in which, looking back, I feel like I made some good progress in my writing. I spend the same amount of time writing every week, but some weeks I look back and wonder what in heaven's name I accomplished. The weeks in which I'm able to log consistently high word counts every day are always satisfying ones. So here's to another week just like it. I'm trying out something a little new over at my blog Wordplay. It's just a little tweak. I'm featuring the illustrating photo on each post in a larger, more prominent position, and I'd love your feedback. Do you like it? Dislike it? Does it pull you in and add to your reading experience? Or do you feel it gets in the way more? Stop by wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and let me know what you think. A must-read tip for writing slam-bang finales. The latest post in the video series on my blog talks about a simple technique you can use to encourage readers to keep turning your final pages deep into the wee hours of the morning. You can watch the video on my blog. New videos are posted every Wednesday. And now I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Don't let multiple character scenes run away with you. Three's a crowd, especially when authors have to juggle 3 or more characters in a single scene. One character? No problem. We can safely call him he throughout the entire scene without once worrying about confusing our readers. 2 characters? That's in the bag. The dialogue alternates between characters every other line, and if they happen to be of opposite genders, we can still safely use the pronouns. But 3, or heaven forbid, more characters? How do we juggle scenes in which multiple characters are all supposed to be acting and talking? How do we keep a dozen characters involved in the scene without making it feel like a rote rotation of speakers? Most importantly, how do we keep this stampeding cast of characters from trampling our readers and leaving them bruised and confused? Ask yourself the following questions. What's the point? Figure out the point of your scene early on and keep it firmly in mind as you navigate your sea of characters. Think about that last boardroom meeting you wrote. It no doubt had a ton of characters, some of them important and some of them not, and if you had taken the time to touch base with every character, the scene would have lost focus. What's the conflict? Conflict's another important, nay, vital ingredient that can often get lost amidst the clutter of multiple characters. We can get so involved in arranging, describing, and chatting with our horde that we forget to make sparks fly among them. A friendly chat among half a dozen characters isn't interesting. A raging argument, on the other hand. Who will be your primary characters? Your scene may require the presence of 20 characters, but that doesn't mean the bulk of the scene has to involve all of them. You'll be able to focus your scene and ramp up the conflict if you keep the primary exchange anchored between 2 or 3 primary characters. Most of us can't carry on a conversation with a dozen people at once anyway. We instinctively fragment into smaller groups, and so should your characters. Are you introducing too many characters? Bad enough when readers have to keep up with a dozen already familiar characters, but when they've just been introduced to these people, the chances of figuring out who's who go down the drain. If you know you've got a big, and by big I mean crowded, scene coming up, lay the groundwork by introducing all the prominent players in earlier scenes. How are your characters unique? You can help readers navigate the crowd by making sure none of your characters blend together. Make them memorable by giving them unique personal traits, and help readers differentiate among them by making certain none of their names begin with the same letter or look too similar on the page. Is your dialogue clearly tagged? Perhaps the biggest potential pitfall of multiple character scenes is the dialogue. Unlike 2-speaker dialogue exchanges, in which readers understand the dialogue is ping-ponging back and forth between the 2 characters, conversations among multiple characters can grow confusing. Whenever there's even the slightest chance readers may not know who's speaking, do them a favor and clearly indicate the speaker with a dialogue tag, Mike said, or an action beat, Mike thumped his glass down on the table. Multiple character scenes can amp up the stakes, the tension, and the fun. So long as you plan them out, realize the pitfalls, and prepare for potential problems, you'll be ready to host the biggest character party on the block. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmwyland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.